It was March of 2004, and the Bush administration was engaged in a secret program to tap phone calls without court approval. A week before the deadline to reauthorize the program, Attorney General John Ashcroft met with his top deputy, James Comey. They agreed the program was illegal and should not be reauthorized. A few hours later, Ashcroft became violently ill with pancreatitis.
The Attorney General was taken that very afternoon to George Washington Hospital, where he went into intensive care and remained there for over a week, and I became the acting Attorney General.
James Comey testified that a few days later he told officials in the White House and in the Vice President's office about the Justice Department decision on the wiretap program, which was due to expire in 2 days. The next evening, just before the deadline,
and that night was probably the most difficult night of my professional life, so it's not something I forget.
Comey testified that at 8 p.m. while he was in a car downtown with a security detail, he received an urgent message.
Mrs. Ashcroft reported that a call had come through, and that as a result of that call, Mr. Card and Mr. Gonzales were on their way to the hospital to see Mr. Ashcroft.
Comey then called his colleagues at the Justice Department and phoned FBI Director Robert Mueller. Then
Told my security detail that I need to get to George Washington Hospital immediately. They turned on the emergency equipment and drove very quickly to the hospital. I got out of the car and literally ran up the stairs with my security detail. I was concerned that, given how ill I knew the Attorney General was, that there might be an effort to ask him to overrule me when he was in no condition to do that.
Comey arrived at Ashcroft's room. His gallbladder had been removed the day before, and this was his 6th day in intensive care.
And I immediately began speaking to him, trying to orient him as to time and place, and try to see if he could focus on what was happening. And it wasn't clear to me that he could. He seemed pretty bad off.
Comey then stepped into the hallway and called FBI Director Mueller again. Mueller then asked to speak with the head of Ashcroft's FBI security team at the hospital.
And Director Mueller instructed the FBI agents present not to allow me to be removed from the room under any circumstances. And I went back in the room.
Within minutes, in walked White House Chief of Staff Andy Card and White House counsel Alberto Gonzales with documents in hand.
They came over and stood by the bed, greeted the Attorney General very briefly, and then Mr. Gonzales began to discuss why they were there, to seek his approval for a matter.
Comey testified he was shocked to see Ashcroft gather his strength, sit up, and clearly explain why the Justice Department opposed reauthorizing the wiretap program.
And as he laid back down, he said, "But that doesn't matter because I'm not the Attorney General. There is the Attorney General," and he pointed to me when I was just to his left. The two men did not acknowledge me. They turned and walked from the room.
A few minutes later, Comey received an angry phone call from Card. The White House Chief of Staff demanded that Comey meet him at the White House immediately.
I responded that after the conduct I had just witnessed, I would not meet with him without a witness present. He replied, "What conduct? We were just there to wish him well." And I said again, after what I just witnessed, I will not meet with you without a witness, and I intend that witness to be the Solicitor General of the United States.
The Solicitor General was Ted Olson. Comey reached him by phone at a party. Olson left and met Comey and other senior staff at the Justice Department. Then Comey and Olson went to the White House. There, they met with Gonzales and Andy Card. Comey said the meeting was more civil than the phone call or the White House visit, and Comey again explained the Justice Department position on warrantless wiretaps. The meeting ended, however, with the issue unresolved. The next day, Thursday, was the reauthorization deadline, and Comey got a message from the White House.
The program was reauthorized without us, without a signature from the Department of Justice attesting as to its legality, and I prepared a letter of resignation, intending to resign the next day, Friday, March the 12th.
Comey's decision was even more remarkable given the news that Thursday morning, a series of al-Qaeda terrorist attacks at a train station in Madrid, Spain. Despite the chaotic developments for the Bush administration, Comey said his decision was firm.
I couldn't stay if the administration was going to engage in conduct that the Department of Justice had said had no legal basis. I simply couldn't stay.
Comey testified that others were also prepared to resign, including FBI Director Mueller, Mueller's chief of staff, and half a dozen other FBI and Justice Department officials. The next day, on Friday, March 12th, President Bush asked Comey to meet him privately for 15 minutes in the Oval Office. Then, at Comey's urging, the president had a meeting with FBI Director Mueller. After that meeting, the president overrode White House officials, including Card and Gonzales, and authorized Comey and Mueller to make changes to the wiretap program that would satisfy the Justice Department.
We had the president's direction to do what we believe, what the Justice Department believed was necessary to put this matter on a footing where we could certify to its legality. And so we then set out to do that, and we did that.
The Bush administration has never detailed what those changes were. As for some of the key figures in this story, John Ashcroft regained his health and resigned from the Justice Department soon after the 2004 election. James Comey left several months later. And now, of course, Alberto Gonzales remains in charge of the Justice Department, the very department he tried to steamroll. I'm David Shuster for Hardball in Washington.